The morning darkness still wrapped around the city as Maya Johnson's alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m. Her small hand reached out from under the warm blanket to silence it quickly, not wanting to wake her younger brother Kevin in the next room. She had done this so many times that it had become as natural as breathing. Maya sat up in her bed, her eyes adjusting to the darkness of her small bedroom. The walls were covered with swimming competition medals and certificates, not as many as she'd hoped to have one day, but each one earned through hard work and determination. A large poster of Simone Manuel, the first African-American woman to win an individual Olympic gold medal in swimming, watched over her bed. It was a reminder of what was possible. In the kitchen, Maya found her mother Sarah already awake and preparing coffee. Sarah worked as a waitress during the day and cleaned offices at night, but she never missed seeing Maya off to morning practice. Her mother's eyes were tired, but her smile was warm and encouraging as always. "Good morning, baby," Sarah whispered, placing a banana and a peanut butter sandwich in front of Maya. "Did you sleep well?" Maya nodded, quickly eating her breakfast. They didn't talk much during these early mornings. They didn't need to. Years of this routine had created a comfortable silence between them. Sarah packed Maya's lunch while her daughter ate, adding an extra granola bar she had saved from her own break at work. Their small two-bedroom apartment wasn't in the best part of town, but Sarah kept it spotlessly clean and as cozy as possible. The furniture was old but well cared for, and family photos lined the walls, telling the story of their life together. Maya's father wasn't in any of the recent pictures. He had left when Kevin was just a baby, leaving Sarah to raise two children on her own. Maya grabbed her worn but carefully maintained swimming bag from beside the front door. The chlorine smell never quite left it, no matter how many times she washed it. Inside were her practice suit, goggles, and cap, all basic models. Nothing fancy like some of the other swimmers had, but they did the job. "Remember, I'm working late at the restaurant today," Sarah told her daughter. "There's chicken and rice in the fridge for you and Kevin. Make sure he does his homework before playing any games." Maya hugged her mother tightly. She understood the sacrifices her mother made, the extra shifts she took, the sleep she missed, the bills she juggled, all to keep Maya's swimming dreams alive. The monthly pool membership fees and occasional competition entry fees weren't easy to manage on a waitress's salary. The walk to the community pool took exactly 18 minutes. Maya knew every crack in the sidewalk, every street light, and every turn by heart. The neighborhood was quiet at this hour, with only the occasional early morning worker driving past. She walked quickly, her swimming bag bouncing against her hip, her feet moving to the rhythm of the music playing through her second-hand earbuds. The Washington Community Pool wasn't fancy like the private clubs across town, but it was clean and well-maintained. The head lifeguard, Mr. Rodriguez, was already there, preparing to open the doors. He had been letting Maya in early for the past 2 years, ever since he noticed her waiting outside in all weather conditions for the pool to officially open. "Morning, Maya," he greeted her with a smile. "Lane 4 is all yours." The familiar smell of chlorine greeted her as she entered the building. In the locker room, Maya changed into her practice suit quickly. The mirror showed her reflection, a tall, athletic 16-year-old with determination in her dark eyes. Her tight curls were efficiently tucked under her swimming cap, and her goggles sat perfectly adjusted on her forehead. The pool water was calm and inviting, disturbed only by the gentle ripples from the filtration system. Maya did her usual stretches on the pool deck, her muscles warming up gradually. She could hear other early morning swimmers starting to arrive, mostly adults getting in their exercise before work. As she dove into the water for her first lap, Maya felt at home. Here, in the water, it didn't matter that her family struggled to make ends meet. It didn't matter that she wore a basic practice suit while others had the latest brands. In the water, she was simply a swimmer, pushing herself to be better than she was yesterday. Each stroke, each breath, each turn was a step toward her dreams. Dreams that seemed impossible for a black girl from a struggling family, but dreams she refused to let go. The morning started like any other at Washington Community Pool. Maya had finished half of her training routine, her muscles warming up nicely as she glided through the cool water. The pool was quiet, with only the gentle splashing of water against the tiles breaking the silence. In Lane 6, the one reserved for private members, Maya noticed a man swimming laps. She recognized him as the Asian gentleman who came in twice a week, always wearing an expensive black swimsuit and carrying a waterproof sports watch. He usually kept to himself, swimming steadily before leaving in a hurry, probably heading to some important job. Maya turned her focus back to her own training, counting her strokes and checking her time. Coach Martinez would want to see improvement in her freestyle times at tomorrow's practice. She was halfway through her lap when something caught her eye. Something wasn't right in lane 6. The man's swimming pattern had changed. Instead of his usual smooth strokes, his movements became jerky and uncoordinated. Maya had seen enough swimmers in trouble during her lifeguard training to recognize the signs. Her heart started beating faster as she noticed he wasn't coming up for air. Mr. Rodriguez, the regular lifeguard, had stepped away to help an elderly swimmer with a locker issue. Maya didn't hesitate. She pushed off the wall hard, cutting through the water toward lane 6. The man had stopped moving completely now, floating face down in the water. "Hey," Maya called out, but there was no response. Other swimmers hadn't noticed yet, focused on their own exercises. Maya took a deep breath and dove under the lane divider. When she reached him, she could see his face twisted in pain, bubbles slowly escaping from his mouth. Using the techniques she learned in training, Maya wrapped one arm around his chest and began pulling him toward the surface. He was heavier than anyone she practiced with, his business-built muscles adding to his weight. Breaking the surface, Maya heard gasps from the other swimmers who had finally noticed the situation. "Call 911," she shouted, her voice echoing across the pool area. She kicked strongly, pulling the unconscious man toward the edge of the pool. 2 other swimmers rushed to help her lift him onto the deck. Maya pulled herself out quickly, her hands shaking slightly as she checked for breathing. The man's chest wasn't moving. "Starting chest compressions," Maya announced clearly, falling back on her training. She positioned her hands and began pushing rhythmically against his chest, counting under her breath. Water trickled from the man's mouth as she worked. Mr. Rodriguez came running back, his face pale when he saw what was happening. He quickly took over the rescue breaths while Maya continued compressions. They worked together smoothly, like a well-rehearsed team. After what felt like hours but was probably only a minute, the man suddenly coughed, water spewing from his mouth. Maya and Mr. Rodriguez quickly turned him onto his side, relief washing over them as he began breathing on his own. "Muscle. Cramp," the man managed to say between coughs, his voice raspy. His eyes focused on Maya, confusion clear on his face. "You saved me." Before Maya could respond, paramedics burst through the pool doors, their equipment rattling as they rushed over. They quickly took charge of the situation, checking the man's vital signs and preparing him for transport to the hospital. As they lifted him onto the stretcher, the man reached out and caught Maya's wrist. "Your name," he said, his voice stronger now. "Please tell me your name." "Maya Johnson, sir," she replied, suddenly very aware of her dripping hair and the pool water forming a puddle around her feet. "Maya Johnson," he repeated carefully, as if memorizing it. "I'm Thomas Chen. Thank you for saving my life." The paramedics began wheeling him away, but his eyes stayed on Maya until they passed through the doors. The pool was oddly quiet after they left. Other swimmers stood around, still processing what had happened. Mr. Rodriguez put a towel around Maya's shoulders and squeezed them gently. "You did good, kid," he said proudly. "Really good." Maya nodded, her adrenaline slowly fading. She looked at the clock. It was only 6:15 a.m. She still had time to finish her practice before school, though she doubted she could focus on her times now. As she walked back to her lane, other swimmers patted her shoulder and whispered their congratulations. Little did Maya know, but Thomas Chen wasn't just any businessman, and this wouldn't be the last time their paths would cross. In fact, this morning's events would change both their lives in ways she couldn't imagine. The emergency room at City General Hospital was busy that morning. Thomas Chen lay on a hospital bed, now wearing a light blue medical gown instead of his expensive swimsuit. Doctors had been in and out of his room, checking his vitals and asking questions about what happened at the pool. Meanwhile, at school, Maya couldn't focus on her classes. The morning's events kept playing in her mind like a movie on repeat. Her hands still felt the pressure of doing chest compressions, and her ears rang with the sound of Thomas Chen's first desperate gasp for air. During lunch break, Maya's best friend Tasha couldn't believe the story. "You actually saved someone's life?" she asked, her sandwich forgotten in her hands. "Like for real?" "I just did what I learned in training. Maya said quietly, not wanting to draw attention from other students in the cafeteria. But news traveled fast in high school, and by afternoon, teachers and students alike were calling her a hero. Back at the hospital, Thomas Chen was sitting up in his bed, talking on his phone. His assistant, Jenny, stood nearby with a tablet, taking notes. "Cancel all my meetings for today," Thomas instructed, "and find out everything you can about Maya Johnson from Washington Community Pool." He paused, listening to someone on the other end of the line. "No, this is not just about hospital liability. This young girl saved my life." Jenny nodded, her fingers moving quickly across the tablet screen. "Sir, I've already got some preliminary information. Maya Johnson, 16 years old, student at Roosevelt High School, lives with her mother Sarah Johnson and younger brother Kevin. Her mother works 2 jobs, waitressing at Dale's Diner during the day and cleaning offices at night." Thomas listened carefully, his expression thoughtful. The doctors had told him that without Maya's quick action and proper CPR technique, the severe cramping episode could have been fatal. He remembered the strength in her young arms as she pulled him from the water, the confidence in her voice as she directed others to help. That afternoon, while Maya was walking home from school, a black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, revealing Jenny's professional smile. "Maya Johnson," Jenny called out. "I'm Jenny Wong, Mr. Chen's assistant. He would like to speak with you, if you have time." Maya hesitated, remembering her mother's warnings about getting into cars with strangers. Jenny seemed to understand her concern. "We can drive to the hospital together, or you can meet us there. Your mother is welcome to join us. In fact, Mr. Chen insists on it." After a quick call to her mother, who agreed to meet them at the hospital after her shift at the diner, Maya decided to accept the ride. The car was the fanciest she ever been in, with soft leather seats and cool air conditioning. At the hospital, they found Thomas sitting up in bed, looking much better than he had that morning. His wife Susan was there too, her eyes filling with tears when she saw Maya. "So you're the angel who saved my husband," Susan said, pulling Maya into a surprise hug. Thank you so much." Thomas cleared his throat, his expression serious but kind. "Maya, what you did this morning was extraordinary. Not just the rescue itself, but the way you handled everything, the CPR, directing others, staying calm under pressure. These are rare qualities in someone so young." Maya shifted uncomfortably under his praise. "Really, sir, I just did what anyone would do." "But that's where you're wrong," Thomas said gently. "Not everyone would know what to do, or have the courage to act so quickly. Jenny tells me you've been training as a swimmer for years." Maya nodded. "Yes, sir, since I was 7. "And you work as a lifeguard?" "No, sir. I just did the training course when the pool offered it for free last summer. I'm not old enough to be hired yet." Thomas exchanged a look with his wife, then turned back to Maya. "Well, that's about to change. I'd like to help you, Maya. You've shown exceptional character and skill, and I believe in investing in people like you." Before he could continue, Sarah Johnson arrived, still in her waitress uniform, looking worried and confused. Thomas smiled warmly at her. "Mrs. Johnson, please come in. I have something important to discuss with both you and your daughter. Something that I believe will change all our lives for the better." 3 days had passed since the rescue at Washington Community Pool. Life had almost returned to normal for the Johnson family, except for the occasional curious looks Maya got at school and the local newspaper article that hung on their refrigerator door. Sarah had wanted to frame it, but Maya felt embarrassed by all the attention. It was Saturday afternoon, and Maya was helping Kevin with his math homework at their small dining table. Sarah was catching up on much-needed sleep after working a double shift at the diner. The apartment was quiet except for the scratching of pencils and the distant sound of traffic outside. A knock at the door made them both look up. They weren't expecting anyone, and most of their neighbors were at work. Maya approached the door cautiously, looking through the peephole. Her eyes widened at what she saw. There stood Thomas Chen, looking very different from the man she pulled from the pool. He wore a perfectly tailored dark blue suit and carried a leather briefcase. Behind him stood his wife Susan, holding what looked like a gift basket, and Jenny, his assistant, typing on her ever-present tablet. "Mom," Maya called out, her voice slightly shaky. "You might want to wake up for this." Sarah emerged from her bedroom, quickly fixing her hair and straightening her t-shirt. When Maya opened the door, all three visitors smiled warmly. "Mrs. Johnson, Maya," Thomas said politely. "I hope we're not interrupting anything important. May we come in?" Sarah welcomed them, quickly clearing some laundry from the couch. Kevin stared open-mouthed at the visitors, his math homework forgotten. The apartment suddenly felt very small with so many people in it. "I apologize for coming unannounced," Thomas continued, sitting down carefully on their worn couch. "But I wanted to speak with you all in person, and I've learned some things that couldn't wait." Susan placed the gift basket on the coffee table. It was filled with fresh fruits, chocolates, and what looked like expensive coffee beans. Jenny remained standing, her tablet ready. "After Maya saved my life," Thomas began, "I had Jenny do some research about your family. I hope you don't mind, but I wanted to understand more about the remarkable young woman who acted so bravely that morning." Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Chen, we're very glad Maya could help you, but you don't owe us anything." Thomas held up his hand gently. "Please, let me finish. What I discovered was a family facing incredible challenges with dignity and determination. A mother working 2 jobs to support her children's dreams. A young athlete training before dawn, because that's the only pool time she can afford. A brother," he nodded at Kevin, "maintaining honor roll grades despite not having access to the same resources as his classmates." Maya felt her mother tense beside her. They weren't ashamed of their life, but having it laid out by a stranger made her mother protective. "Mrs. Johnson," Thomas continued, opening his briefcase, "I also learned that before the economic downturn 5 years ago, you were a successful marketing coordinator at Brighton Communications. You were laid off during company restructuring, despite excellent performance reviews." Sarah's eyes widened. "You looked into my work history?" "I did, and I found something interesting." He pulled out some papers. "The person who replaced you was less qualified, but had family connections. That's not just unfortunate, it's unfair. And I believe in correcting unfair situations when I can." Jenny stepped forward, handing her tablet to Sarah. On the screen was a job listing for marketing director at Chen Innovations, Thomas's technology company. "The position comes with a substantial salary increase from your previous role," Thomas explained. "Full benefits, flexible hours, and most importantly, the chance to rebuild your career. My HR team has reviewed your old work portfolio. The job is yours if you want it." Sarah's hands trembled as she held the tablet. "Mr. Chen, this is... I don't know what to say." "There's more," Susan added softly, reaching into her purse. She pulled out another envelope. "We'd like to establish a trust fund for Maya's swimming training and college education, and a separate education fund for Kevin." The room fell silent. Kevin had stopped pretending to do his homework and was staring at the adults with wide eyes. Maya felt tears forming but blinked them back. "Why?" Sarah finally asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Why would you do all this for us?" Thomas looked at Maya, his eyes serious. "Because your daughter didn't just save my life. She showed me what real character looks like. And in my experience, when you find people with that kind of character, you invest in their future." He smiled at the family. "Consider this the beginning of a long-term investment in all of you." Monday morning arrived with a mix of excitement and nervousness in the Johnson household. Sarah stood in front of her bedroom mirror, wearing a new navy blue business suit that Susan Chen had helped her pick out over the weekend. Her hands shook slightly as she put on earrings she hadn't worn since her days at Brighton Communications. "Mom, you look amazing," Maya said from the doorway, already in her swimming gear. Even though it was her mother's first day at Chen Innovations, Maya wouldn't skip her morning practice. Sarah smiled nervously. "Are you sure? It's been so long since I've dressed like this." She smoothed down the jacket for the 100th time. In the kitchen, Kevin was eating breakfast, wearing new clothes himself. Part of the Chen's help had included a shopping trip for the whole family. He looked up as his mother and sister entered. "Can I take the bus with James today?" he asked hopefully. With their mother starting her new job, they were adjusting their morning routines. "Of course, baby. Just remember to text me when you get to school," Sarah replied, checking her new phone, another gift from the Chens that would help her stay connected with her children during work hours. The doorbell rang, and Maya opened it to find Jenny waiting with a warm smile. Thomas had arranged for his assistant to help Sarah navigate her first week at the company. "Good morning, Mrs. Johnson," Jenny said professionally. The car is waiting downstairs. And Maya, there's someone else waiting for you at the pool today. Maya looked confused but didn't have time to ask questions. She hugged her mother tightly. You're going to do great, Mom. They're lucky to have you. As Sarah left with Jenny, Maya headed to the pool. The morning air felt different somehow, filled with possibility. When she arrived at Washington Community Pool, she understood Jenny's cryptic message. Standing by the entrance was Coach Maria Torres, one of the city's top swimming coaches. Maya knew about her. Everyone in competitive swimming did. She had trained 3 Olympic swimmers. Maya Johnson? Coach Torres called out, extending her hand. Thomas Chen spoke very highly of you. I'd like to watch you swim this morning, if that's okay. Maya's heart raced faster than it had during the rescue. She nodded, trying to stay calm. Inside the pool area, she noticed new swimming gear waiting on a bench, a professional-grade practice suit, top-of-the-line goggles, and other equipment she had only dreamed of owning. Mr. Chen mentioned you needed some proper gear, Coach Torres said with a smile. Let's see what you can do with it. Across town, Sarah walked into the gleaming offices of Chen Innovations. The building was all glass and steel, nothing like the diner or the offices she cleaned at night. Jenny led her to a spacious office with a nameplate that reads Sarah Johnson, Marketing Director. Your team will be here at 9 a.m. for introductions, Jenny explained, showing Sarah how to use the computer system. Mr. Chen has informed everyone that you're to be given full support in getting up to speed. Sarah sat at her desk, running her fingers over the smooth surface. Just a week ago, she had been taking breakfast orders and wiping tables. Now she was back in the corporate world, but at a higher position than she ever held before. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maya. Coach Torres says I have potential for nationals. Can you believe it? Hope your first day is amazing, Mom. Sarah smiled, feeling tears form in her eyes. Another text came in, this time from Kevin. Made it to school. My new backpack has a laptop pocket. Love you. As she prepared for her first meeting, Sarah thought about how much their lives had changed in just a few days. But Thomas Chen's words from Saturday kept coming back to her. This isn't charity, Mrs. Johnson. This is an investment in talent and character. Show them what you can do. A knock on her office door interrupted her thoughts. Thomas Chen stood there, smiling warmly. Ready to change the world, Sarah? He asked. She stood up straight, confidence flowing through her. Yes, sir, more than ready. Good, he replied. Because this is just the beginning. Your daughter showed us what your family is made of. Now it's your turn to show everyone else. Sarah nodded, picking up her tablet for the meeting. The Johnsons had been given an incredible opportunity, and they were going to make the most of every single moment. 2 months had passed since the Johnsons' lives changed. Their new apartment was in a safer neighborhood, with enough bedrooms for everyone and a study space for Kevin. The walls were freshly painted, and large windows let in plenty of natural light. But this morning, Maya sat on her new bed, holding her old swimming medals, feeling strangely out of place. Maya, breakfast is ready, Sarah called from their modern kitchen. She was already dressed for work, looking confident in her role as marketing director. The dark circles under her eyes were gone, replaced by a healthy glow that came from regular sleep and less stress. Maya walked into the kitchen, where Kevin was eating pancakes and reading a science magazine, one of his new interests since joining the school's robotics club. Coach Torres called, Sarah said, sliding a plate of pancakes toward Maya. She wants you to do an interview with the local news station about the upcoming regional championships. Maya pushed her pancakes around the plate. Do I have to? Everyone at school already treats me differently. Sarah sat down next to her daughter. What do you mean, baby? Yesterday, Jessica, from the swim team, she said I only got Coach Torres because of Mr. Chen's money, not because of my talent. Maya's voice was quiet, but the hurt was clear. Kevin looked up from his magazine. That's not true. You saved Mr. Chen's life because you're good at swimming. That's why he helped us. Kevin's right, Sarah said firmly. And your times have improved by 2 seconds since Coach Torres started training you. That's your hard work, not anyone's money. Maya nodded, but her mother could tell she was still troubled. Later that day at Chen Innovations, Sarah mentioned the conversation to Thomas during their weekly project meeting. Ah, Thomas said thoughtfully, leaning back in his chair. I was worried this might happen. Would you mind if I speak with Maya? That afternoon, Thomas's car picked Maya up from school and took her to his office. The view from the top floor was amazing, but Maya hardly noticed it. She was nervous about why Mr. Chen wanted to see her. Maya, Thomas began, sitting not behind his desk but in one of the comfortable chairs near the window. Your mother told me about what's happening at school. Maya looked down at her hands. It's not a big deal, Mr. Chen. Actually, it is. His voice was kind but serious. When I was starting my company, many people said I only succeeded because I came from a privileged family. Want to know a secret? He waited until Maya looked up. My father was a dishwasher in a Chinese restaurant. My mother cleaned houses. Maya's eyes widened. But you're a CEO. Yes, because someone gave me an opportunity, just like I gave your family one. But that opportunity would have meant nothing if I hadn't worked hard. He pulled out a folder. These are your swimming times from before and after Coach Torres. You've improved more in 2 months than most swimmers do in 6. That's not because of money. That's all you. Tears formed in Maya's eyes, but she blinked them back. Thomas pretended not to notice, giving her time to compose herself. The thing about opportunities, Maya, is that they're just open doors. You still have to walk through them yourself, and you're not just walking, you're running. On the drive home, Maya thought about what Mr. Chen had said. When she arrived, she found Kevin excitedly showing their mother his first-place ribbon from the robotics competition. They said I had the most innovative design. Kevin beamed. And guess what? Mr. Rodriguez from the pool came to watch. He said he's proud of how we're doing. Sarah hugged her son, then her daughter. Our old friends haven't forgotten us, she said softly. And our new opportunities don't change who we are. They just let us be more of who we were meant to be. That evening, as Maya did her homework in her new study space, she looked at the photo on her desk. It showed their family at the pool with Mr. Rodriguez, taken the day before they moved. Next to it stood a newer photo of them with the Chens at a company picnic. Both pictures showed the same smiles, the same love, the same family, just at different points in their journey. Maya opened her training journal and began planning for tomorrow's practice. Jessica's words didn't bother her anymore. She had a new understanding now. Success wasn't about where help came from, but what you did with it when it arrived. The National Swimming Championships were just 2 weeks away, and the pressure was building. Maya stood at the edge of the Olympic-sized pool where Coach Torres had been training her, staring at the water that seemed to stretch endlessly before her. This wasn't the Washington Community Pool anymore. This was the city's elite athletic center, and she was about to attempt her personal best time. Focus, Maya. Coach Torres called from the sidelines, stopwatch in hand. Remember what we practiced. Returns are your strength. Maya took a deep breath and adjusted her goggles. The familiar scent of chlorine calmed her nerves. As she took her position on the starting block, she heard whispers from other swimmers and their parents watching from the bleachers. That's the girl Chen sponsors. I heard she only got here because she saved some rich guy. Must be nice having everything handed to you. The whispers weren't new anymore, but they still stung. Maya closed her eyes, remembering what Thomas had told her. Let them talk. Your times will speak louder. The whistle blew. Maya dove into the water, her body cutting through it like an arrow. Underwater, everything else disappeared, the whispers, the doubts, the pressure. Here, it was just her and the water, moving together in perfect rhythm. Later that evening, Sarah hosted a small dinner at their apartment. Thomas and Susan Chen were there, along with Coach Torres and Mr. Rodriguez from their old pool. Kevin proudly showed everyone his latest robotics project while they waited for the food to arrive. Maya, Coach Torres said during dinner, your time today was exceptional. You're not just ready for nationals. You have a real shot at winning. The table fell quiet. Maya looked down at her plate, feeling everyone's eyes on her. But what if they're right? She finally asked, her voice small. What if I'm only here because of Mr. Chen's help? Thomas put down his fork. Maya, do you know why I was at the pool that morning? She shook her head. I swim to manage stress. That morning, I had a major business crisis. I was distracted, didn't warm up properly, and got a cramp. My money didn't help me then. Your skill and courage did. He leaned forward. And your times now? Money didn't shave those seconds off. Your hard work did. He's right, Mr. Rodriguez added. I watched you practice for years at Washington Community Pool. Your talent was always there. You just needed the right opportunities to develop it. Sarah reached for her daughter's hand. Show them your training journal, baby. Maya went to her room and returned with a worn notebook. She handed it to Coach Tars, who opened it and began reading through the detailed notes Maya had kept of every practice, every technique adjustment, every small improvement. This, Coach Tari said, holding up the journal, this is why you're going to nationals. Not because of sponsorship, but because you analyze every swim, learn from every mistake, and never stop pushing yourself. Susan Chen, who had been quiet most of the evening, spoke up. Maya, when Thomas told me he wanted to help your family, you didn't talk about your swimming. You talked about your character. How you jumped in to save him without hesitation. How you stayed calm under pressure. How you showed leadership. And look at your mother, Thomas added, smiling at Sarah. She's revolutionizing our marketing department not because I gave her a job, but because she had the skills all along. She just needed a fair chance to show them. Kevin piped up, and I got first place in robotics all by myself. Everyone laughed, breaking the tension. Maya felt warmth spread through her chest as she looked around the table. These people believed in her, not because of what she might achieve, but because of who she already was. That night, after everyone left, Maya stood on their apartment balcony with her mother, looking at the city lights. Mom, she said softly, I think I'm ready for nationals. Sarah hugged her daughter. You've always been ready, baby. You just needed to believe it yourself. Maya nodded, thinking about the challenges ahead. The whispers might not stop, the pressure wouldn't ease, but she knew now that she belonged in those waters. Not because someone had given her the chance, but because she had earned it, one lap at a time. The National Championships arena was packed with spectators, their excited chatter echoing off the high ceiling. Maya stood behind her starting block, rolling her shoulders to stay loose. 2 years had passed since that morning when she saved Thomas Chen's life, and now here she was, competing in the finals of the 200-meter freestyle. In the stands, Sarah sat between Kevin and Thomas Chen, clutching her program so tightly it was crumpling. She wore her company badge proudly. She had come straight from leading a major marketing presentation to make it to the competition. Kevin held up a bright poster that read, "Swim like a boss, Maya," decorated with glitter that kept falling on Thomas's expensive suit. She looks calm, Susan Chen observed, sitting next to her husband. Mr. Rodriguez from Washington Community Pool was there too, beaming with pride. He had closed the pool early today so he could attend, bringing with him a small group of young swimmers who used to train with Maya. Coach Tari stood at pool level, her usual stern expression replaced with quiet confidence. Maya had broken 2 state records to get here, and her times in the preliminaries had turned heads. The whispers about her were different now, no longer about privilege, but about talent. Lane 4, Maya Johnson, the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. A cheer went up from her support section. Even some of her old critics from school were there, now among her biggest supporters after seeing her dedication over the past 2 years. Maya took her mark, fingers gripping the starting block. In that moment, she remembered everything. The early mornings at Washington Community Pool, the day she saved Thomas, her mother's sacrifices, Kevin's unwavering support, Coach Torres's guidance, and Thomas's mentorship. The starter's horn sounded. Maya's dive was perfect, her entry clean. Under the water, she was powerful, efficient, exactly as she trained. Coming up for her first breath, she could hear Coach Torres's voice in her head. Trust your training, trust yourself. The first 100 meters flew by. Maya was neck and neck with the defending champion from California. As they made the turn for the final 50 meters, Maya thought of her mother working 2 jobs, of Kevin doing homework by flashlight, of their old apartment with its leaky faucets. She thought of Thomas Chen believing in her family when others wouldn't. With 25 meters to go, Maya found another gear. Her arms cut through the water with fierce determination, her kick strengthened. The crowd was roaring, but she heard nothing except the rush of water past her ears. Her hand slapped the wall. Maya surfaced, gasping for air, and looked at the scoreboard. The arena erupted. New national record. Maya Johnson, first place. Sarah was crying, Kevin was jumping up and down, and Thomas Chen was applauding with tears in his eyes. Coach Torres pumped her fist in the air, breaking her professional demeanor for once. As Maya pulled herself out of the pool, reporters rushed forward with microphones and cameras, but she walked past them, straight to where her family waited. Sarah wrapped her daughter in a towel in her arms. "You did it, baby. You really did it." "We did it, Mom," Maya corrected her, including Kevin in the hug. "All of us." Thomas Chen stepped forward, smiling proudly. "I knew from the moment you saved my life that you were extraordinary, Maya, but you've proven to be even more remarkable than I imagined." Coach Torres joined them, holding Maya's new medal. "This is just the beginning," she said. "The Olympic trials are next year." Maya's eyes widened at the word Olympics, but she wasn't scared. She had learned that with hard work, support, and belief in herself, anything was possible. Later that evening, the Johnsons hosted a celebration dinner in their apartment. The same table that once barely held their simple meals now hosted a feast. Mr. Rodriguez told stories about tiny Maya practicing her strokes, making everyone laugh. Kevin showed off his acceptance letter to the engineering program at MIT, his dreams now within reach thanks to the Education Fund. Sarah, now a vice president at Chen Innovations, looked around at their gathered friends, old and new, from every part of their journey. Thomas Chen raised his glass in a toast. "To the Johnson family," he said warmly, "who taught us all that sometimes the biggest act of courage isn't saving a life, it's believing in yourself enough to change your own." Maya touched her gold medal and smiled. Their story had started with a rescue, but it had become so much more. It had become a story of hope, determination, and the power of giving people a chance to show what they could really do. As the evening wound down, Maya stepped out onto their balcony, looking at the same city lights she'd viewed 2 years ago. But now she saw them differently, not as distant stars, but as beacons of possibility. Her future stretched out before her, bright and full of promise, just like the waters she'd mastered.